I spent the weekend in Cincinnati, and I went and watched the Bengals play the Patriots in Paul Brown Stadium in downtown Cincinnati. And wow, what an amazing city! I love the people. I love the food. It's a really pretty downtown area. And I got to say, despite all the positives and all the fact that I love Cincinnati with all my heart, I still feel incredibly bad for the people of Cincinnati. Why do I feel bad? Because I feel bad that their NFL team, the Cincinnati Bengals, is a bad franchise. I feel so bad for that fan base. The question is why? Why are they bad? Ownership. Their ownership is awful. Mike Brown is the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals. He inherited the team from his daddy, Paul Brown. And the dad, Paul Brown, was a football legend, kind of a football rock star. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The Cleveland Browns are literally named after Paul Brown, the original owner and founder of the Cincinnati Bengals. In 1968, he founded the Bengals in Cincinnati. And, man, it seems like the dad, Paul Brown, really knew the game of football. He was a football legend. And while the dad is a football legend, his son, Mike, is not. And unfortunately, his son Mike is the person making decisions right now for the franchise, the Cincinnati Bengals. He pretends like he knows what he's talking about. He doesn't. The Bengals do not have a general manager. What that means is they haven't hired a football person to make football decisions for their franchise. Dave Tobin right now is the director, Duke Tobin. Duke Tobin is the director of player personnel in Cincinnati. He kind of takes a role helping with advising who the Bengals should go after, what players they should bring in. But there's not a general manager in Cincinnati. It's a huge problem. All of the decisions made about players are made by the owner, Mike Brown. I want to give you an example for a comparison. I want to give you an example of good ownership. While I was in Cincinnati, my dad and I went to Northern Row Brewing and Distilling. And we met the owners of Northern Row Brewery. We were given full media access. We were the first media ever to go into their brand new tap room. Their tap room opens at the end of January. And, the owners wanted to make German beer. So guess what they did? As people who wanted to brew German beer, they brought in German beer brewers, people who brew German beer. They brought in people that were a good fit. And then the owner set very clear expectations. This is what we want. And then guess what? They got out of the way. The owners set clear expectations, then they got out of the way and allowed the talented brewers they hired to brew really good beer. Who knows how to brew beer better? The owner or the head brewer? Probably the talented person you hired, the head brewer. Regularly in business, you see ownership get in the way of their business succeeding. Good owners hire smart people, talented people, and then they get out of the way and allow the people they hired to do what they're good at, which is whatever the field they work in. They're whether it's football or brewing beer or restaurants, whatever it is. You watch Kitchen Nightmares, one of my favorite shows. Gordon Ramsay's a host. Regularly, ownership is the reason why the restaurant is failing. So again, the brewers were given, hey, the owner said, here's our clear expectation. This is what we want. Then we're going to get out of the way. Northern Row Brewery has some of the best ownership I have ever come across in my entire life. And my dad is a food writer. I've been to, I think, hundreds, if not thousands, of breweries and restaurants and distilleries. I've met a lot of ownership, and a lot of them are pretty good. The owners of Northern Row Brewery are phenomenal. They understand. They get it. Hey, we're going to hire talented people, and I'm going to say this for the 15th time. Get out of the way. Mike Brown, the Bengals owner, is afraid and unwilling to give up power to someone beneath him. He will not hire a smart football person and get out of the way. He needs to hire a general manager. Zach Taylor is the Bengals head coach. He's a young guy. He knows quarterbacks. He played in college. He played a little bit of professional football at quarterback. He understands the quarterback position. And from where I'm sitting today, it's really hard to tell whether or not Zach Taylor is a good coach or not. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's working with the Cincinnati Bengals, who have bad ownership. It just might not be Zach Taylor's fault. It might be upper management causing him problems, handcuffing him, not allowing him to be the creative genius of football that he is. We don't know. It could be the ownership's fault. But here's what I do know. Here's the real tragedy of the Cincinnati Bengals. They are about to draft Joe Burrow. They're going to draft Joe Burrow in the probably with a first-round pick, first overall pick in the NFL draft. Joe Burrow is a quarterback. He's from Ohio. That's where Cincinnati is. He's from Athens, Ohio. It's pretty clear to me they're going to go for Joe Burrow, the local Ohio kid. They're going to bring him in. He's a quarterback from Louisiana State, LSU. He just won the Heisman Trophy. Joe Burrow was named the best player in all of college football. And I will tell you, I have never been more all in on a college quarterback than I am on Joe Burrow. I believe in Joe Burrow with everything in my heart. He is an incredible quarterback. The dude cares. He's incredibly passionate. I mean, why? First of all, go watch his Heisman speech. He literally cries on stage because of how much it means to him. You can tell he's deeply moved. I've never seen a guy, be that open and honest about his passion for football. But then if you watch the tape and you watch on Saturdays the way Joe Burrow's played in the last 2 years, it's incredibly clear. He's passionate about football. He's made dramatic improvements. He's been at LSU for 2 years. Last year, he was a very average, mundane quarterback. This year, he took a gigantic step forward. And you can say, well, it's coaching. It's not all coaching. Joe Burrow did the work. His mechanics are better. His footwork is better. He's a talented quarterback. He's a great leader. He's got everything off the field and on the field that you could want. Joe Burrow is a quarterback I am all in on. I believe heavily in Joe Burrow. He's the best quarterback I've seen in a long time. And it's more than just his physical ability. It's who Joe Burrow is at his core. And so an Ohio kid is going to go play for the Cincinnati Bengals from Cincinnati, Ohio. And look, I believe if any quarterback can turn around the Cincinnati Bengals, it's Joe Burrow. But sadly, I don't think that Joe Burrow can save the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think it's possible. I was talking to a Bengals fan this weekend, and he said, man, we just need to draft Joe Burrow. He said quarterback is the most important person on the team. And that Bengals fan is mostly right. It is mostly the truth that the quarterback is the most important position on a football team. But sadly, the reality is actually the most important person, the person you rarely hear about, because most of them are just a good enough job that they don't ever get in the way. But sadly, the most important part of an NFL team is the owner. That person, the owner, is the most important person on the football team. If he reaches his hand in the cookie jar and gets in the way and has his hand meddling with football, he can be a problem and ruin things for the rest of the players, no matter how talented the people you hire are. Just imagine if the brewers at Northern Row Brewery had ownership handcuffing them, telling them you got to use these ingredients, got to do it this way, micromanaging everything they did and not giving them the freedom to work and be creative with what they do. Northern Row Brewing has some of the best beer I've ever had in my entire life. It's actually straight up my favorite. I cannot wait to go back there and have more of it. But it wouldn't happen if the ownership got in the way of the creative people and didn't allow them to do their job. No matter how good Joe Burrow is, he's going to be drafted by the Bengals. It's going to happen. I don't really care that you can say it's a bold prediction. I don't believe it. I think unless the Bengals are massive idiots, they're going to draft somebody else. Unless the Bengals are massive idiots, they're going to draft Joe Burrow. It's too good a story. He's from Ohio. He's the best quarterback in the draft. They're going to do it. And in spite of the fact that he's incredibly talented, ownership is going to get in his way. Even the best and the brightest need good ownership that allows them the freedom to shine. It's just funny, man. I saw this gigantic contrast in Cincinnati this weekend. Northern Row Brewing has incredible, talented brewers. And the Bengals are going to have this incredible, talented quarterback. Why will the Bengals be the one that fails? Ownership. You can have all the pieces right, but if your ownership is meddling and too involved and overly involved, you're going to fail. Ownership is going to get into Joe Burrow's way. The Bengals have bad ownership, which stifles and limits talented people. Again, I'll say this over and over and over again. I was so impressed with Northern Row Brewery. The best owners are like the owners of Northern Row Brewery. They hire people who are smarter than them in that field. Brewing, football, restaurant, whatever you want it to be. Hire people who are smarter than you if you're the owner. Create clear expectations and then get out of the way. Let the talented people you hired do what they do best. And sadly, the Bengals owner, Mike Brown, will not do that. This is why the Bengals are going to fail, even though they're about to draft an incredible quarterback, Joe Burrow. A quarterback I believe in Joe Burrow's career is going to have a sad ending because his ownership will not be good enough. Oh, man, it's so disappointing. There's nothing worse than watching a missed opportunity or watching somebody get in their own way or not allowing. I know someone recently who had something great in front of them, and they couldn't allow themselves to enjoy it, and it cost them that opportunity. It's like, man, that's so sad. You feel bad for that person because they got in their own way, and there's nothing more sad than people who get in their own way.